Most people spend their entire lives searching for a secret that was never hidden. They believe wealth belongs to the lucky, the gifted, the connected, or the educated. They look at successful men and assume those men possess something rare from the beginning. But after studying the lives of hundreds of winners, one truth became impossible to ignore. Wealth is not random. Success leaves patterns. And the men who rise above the ordinary often follow the same invisible principles while everyone else remains distracted by appearances. I will not waste your time with empty motivation or temporary excitement. What you are about to hear is not built on fantasy. It is built on observation. These lessons were not collected from men who merely talked about success. They came from men who created results, while others continued making excuses. Some began with nothing. Some were mocked. Some failed repeatedly before they ever gained recognition. Yet beneath their different stories existed the same mental habits, the same disciplined patterns, and the same way of thinking about money, effort, and opportunity. Most people search for shortcuts because they secretly hope success can arrive without transformation. But every man I studied paid a price, not always in money, but in focus, discipline, patience, sacrifice, and persistence. The world sees the reward but ignores the structure beneath it. That structure is what separates the winners from the wanderers. There is something else you must understand before we continue. Wealth is not created first in the outer world. It is created in the mind. Long before money appears physically, a certain order appears mentally. The successful man thinks differently before he lives differently. He organizes his thoughts before he organizes his circumstances. He develops internal discipline before external results begin to follow him. This is why two men can possess the same opportunity while only one transforms it into fortune. The average man waits for confidence before he acts. The winner acts until confidence is created. The average man waits for perfect timing. The winner understands that time never announces itself as perfect. The average man hesitates because he fears failure. The winner fears remaining the same more than he fears temporary defeat. As I studied hundreds of wealthy individuals, I discovered that their greatest advantage was not intelligence alone. Many men of extraordinary intelligence remained poor. Their advantage was emotional discipline. They learned how to control attention. They learned how to remain focused while others became distracted. They learned how to continue when excitement disappeared. And above all, they learned how to think long-term, while most people lived moment to moment. One of the greatest tragedies in life is wasted potential, not because a man lacked ability, but because his energy became divided. He chased too many directions. He changed goals too quickly. He allowed doubt to interrupt momentum. He allowed temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Over time, his life became a collection of unfinished attempts instead of completed achievements. But the winners operated differently. They treated thought like a weapon. They guarded their habits carefully. They understood that every repeated action either moved them closer to wealth or further away from it. They did not rely on luck. They relied on principles. And that is exactly what you are about to learn. These are not random tips. They are recurring patterns repeated across the lives of men who built wealth from discipline, persistence, and clarity of purpose. Some of these lessons may challenge the way you currently think. Good. Growth begins when comfortable thinking becomes impossible. One of these principles will likely strike you harder than the others. Pay attention to that feeling. It usually reveals the area where your life is demanding change. The first lesson is perhaps the most important of all, because without it, every other principle becomes weak and scattered. It is the principle that transforms drifting into direction, confusion into clarity, and ambition into power. It is the law of singular desire. The first money tip I learned from studying winners is this: wealth begins with singular desire, not scattered desire, not casual desire, not the kind of desire that changes every time difficulty appears. Singular desire means one definite aim held with enough intensity that it begins organizing the entire mind around its achievement. Most people want many things at once. They want wealth, comfort, recognition, freedom, security, ease, and success, but none of these desires is strong enough to command the others. Their energy becomes divided. their attention becomes weak. Their actions become inconsistent. And because they never choose one dominant aim, life never receives a clear instruction from them. Winners are different. They select one purpose and allow that purpose to govern their decisions. They do not treat wealth as a vague hope. They define what they want, why they want it, and what they are willing to give in exchange for it. This is why their effort carries force. A river divided into many streams loses power, but a river moving in one direction can cut through stone. Edwin C. Barnes did not approach Thomas Edison with a vague wish to do better in life. His desire was precise. He wanted to become Edison's business associate. That single aim shaped his courage, his persistence, his patience, and his identity. He became dangerous because he was no longer divided. The second money tip is rhythm. Winners do not depend on bursts of motivation. They build routines that carry them forward when motivation disappears. The average man acts when he feels excited and stops when the feeling fades. The winner understands that wealth is not created by occasional intensity, but by repeated action in the same direction. Rhythm turns discipline into identity. When a man repeats one valuable action daily, the action stops feeling like a temporary effort and begins becoming part of who he is. He no longer asks whether he feels ready. He simply continues because continuation has become normal. Henry Ford practiced rhythm long before the world recognized his name. He improved, tested, refined, and repeated. His progress did not look dramatic every day, but the rhythm of his effort eventually created results that appeared extraordinary to others. The third money tip is the ledger of value. Every winner treats time as capital. Every hour is either invested or wasted. Every day creates either a deposit into the future or a withdrawal from it. Most people lose money before they ever earn it because they lose the hours that could have built skill, clarity, discipline, and opportunity. The unsuccessful man asks, "How can I pass time?" The winner asks, "How can this hour increase my value?" That question changes everything. Time used for learning becomes capital. Time used for building becomes capital. Time used for strengthening relationships, sharpening skills, solving problems, and creating value becomes capital. But time spent in distraction becomes debt. It feels harmless in the moment, but years later, it appears as regret. John D. Rockefeller understood the value of time. He treated minutes with the seriousness others reserve for money. He protected his attention, avoided useless activity, and directed his hours toward meaningful increase. His fortune was not built only through opportunity. It was built through disciplined time. The fourth money tip is alliance. No winner rises completely alone. Behind every great fortune is organized cooperation. A man may begin with desire, but if his desire is large enough, he will need other minds, other skills, other perspectives, and other strengths. The average man believes independence means doing everything alone. The winner understands that true power often comes from intelligent alliance. He does not surround himself merely with friends. He surrounds himself with people who strengthen his purpose. Andrew Carnegie mastered this principle. His empire was not built because he personally knew everything. It was built because he knew how to organize capable men around a definite aim. He understood that one mind alone has limits, but several minds working in harmony can produce a force far greater than individual effort. This is why your associations matter. Weak minds weaken direction. Negative minds weaken courage. Undisciplined minds weaken rhythm. But strong minds sharpen ambition, expand thinking, and hold you to a higher standard. The fifth money tip is inner speech. Winners speak to themselves differently. This may sound simple, but it is one of the most powerful discoveries in success psychology. A man's words are not empty. They condition the subconscious mind. What he repeats internally becomes the atmosphere in which his decisions are formed. The man who constantly says, "I cannot," trains his mind to withdraw effort. The man who says, "Nothing works for me," teaches his mind to overlook opportunity. The man who speaks only of obstacles strengthens the very obstacles he claims to hate. Winners use language as command. They speak of direction, possibility, discipline, and progress, Not foolishly, not arrogantly, but deliberately. They understand that repeated words become repeated thoughts become repeated actions, and repeated actions become destiny. If a man wants wealth, he must stop speaking like poverty owns him. He must stop rehearsing defeat. He must stop using language that weakens his will. His speech must support his aim, not sabotage it. The sixth money tip is continual becoming. No man can permanently hold a fortune larger than his character. Money may visit the unprepared, but it will not stay. Wealth requires a larger identity, more discipline, more responsibility, more emotional control, more order, more courage. This is why sudden success often destroys people. They receive more than their identity can carry. Their habits remain small, but their opportunity becomes large. Eventually, the opportunity collapses under the weight of the old self. Winners grow before they receive. They become more valuable, more disciplined, more decisive, and more capable. They understand that wealth follows the man who has become equal to it. The seventh money tip is final commitment. This is the dividing line between those who merely want and those who eventually win. Most people are interested in success. Winners are committed to it. Interest negotiates. Commitment decides. A committed man does not retreat every time the path becomes difficult. He does not abandon his purpose when results are delayed. He does not allow criticism, fear, or temporary failure to rewrite his decision. Once the aim is chosen, he moves with finality. That finality changes how life responds to him. People feel it. Opportunities recognize it. His own subconscious accepts it. He no longer wastes energy debating whether he will continue. He has already decided. And that is what separates winners from wanderers. Not luck, not talent alone, not perfect conditions, but singular desire, rhythm, time, discipline, alliance, powerful inner speech, continual becoming, and final commitment. These are the patterns that appeared again and again among those who won, and they are available to any man willing to stop drifting and begin living by principle. There is a deeper truth behind these 7 money tips that most people never understand. They are not separate ideas. They are connected parts of one larger pattern. Singular desire gives direction. Rhythm creates movement. Time discipline provides capital. Alliance multiplies strength. Inner speech shapes belief. Continual becoming expands capacity. Final commitment removes retreat. Together, these principles form the mind of a winner. The average man tries to build wealth by changing only his outer circumstances. He wants a better job, a better opportunity, a higher income, a lucky break, or a sudden opening. But winners understand that outer circumstances respond to inner organization. The man must first become ordered within before wealth can remain ordered around him. This is why singular desire matters so much. Without it, every other effort becomes scattered. A man may work hard, but his labor lacks aim. He may stay busy, but his busyness does not compound. He may chase many opportunities, but none receive enough focused pressure to break open. Desire must become narrow before it becomes powerful. Once desire becomes definite, rhythm gives it life. A goal visited occasionally has little power. A goal served daily begins to command the subconscious mind. The winner does not wait for inspiration because he understands that inspiration often follows disciplined movement. Each repeated action strengthens the road between desire and result. Time then becomes the field in which rhythm works. A man cannot waste his hours and expect his future to become valuable. Every hour must be treated as something that can either increase or weaken his life. This does not mean a man never rests. It means even rest has purpose. The winner uses time consciously. The drifter lets time disappear. Alliance then expands what one man alone cannot accomplish. The winner does not cling to pride. He seeks strong minds, capable hands, and honest counsel. He understands that wealth often grows faster when intelligence is organized through cooperation. A man walking alone may move, but a man walking with the right alliance multiplies his reach. Inner speech becomes the invisible atmosphere around all of this. If a man speaks defeat while attempting success, he divides himself. His actions move forward while his words pull backward. The winner refuses this contradiction. He speaks in a way that supports the aim. He does not pretend obstacles do not exist, but he refuses to give them authority over his identity. Then comes continual becoming. This is where most people fail after learning good principles. They want better results without becoming a better vessel. But money requires capacity. Opportunity requires maturity. Influence requires character. If the man remains small inwardly, every large opportunity becomes unstable in his hands. Therefore, he must keep growing. He must outgrow hesitation, outgrow disorder, outgrow emotional weakness, outgrow the habits that once made poverty feel familiar. The final principle, commitment, seals everything together. Without commitment, singular desire weakens, rhythm breaks, time is wasted, alliances dissolve, inner speech becomes uncertain, growth becomes optional. Commitment is what transforms these principles from ideas into law. The committed man does not ask every day whether he still feels like continuing. He already decided. That decision protects him when emotion fades, when people doubt him, when results delay, and when fear whispers that he should retreat. This is why winners seem different. They are not free from difficulty. They are governed by principles stronger than difficulty. They do not drift. They decide. They do not wait. They build. They do not complain about time. They invest it. They do not speak weakness over themselves. They command their minds towards strength. And over time, life begins responding to that inner order. That is the real money lesson hidden in the study of winners. Wealth is not only about what a man earns, it is about what he repeatedly becomes. In the end, the greatest discovery from studying hundreds of winners was not how different they were from ordinary people. It was how consistently they lived by principles most people ignore. Their success did not appear from luck alone, nor from talent alone, nor from perfect timing. It came from disciplined patterns repeated long enough to shape identity, opportunity, and result. Most men spend their lives reacting. Winners spend their lives directing. That is the difference. The average man allows emotion to control action. He waits until he feels motivated. He delays when discomfort appears. He changes direction when progress slows. Over time, his life becomes unstable because the force guiding it is unstable. But the winner understands something deeper. He understands that emotions change constantly, while principles remain fixed. Therefore, he builds his life upon principles instead of feelings. This gives him steadiness. And steadiness, repeated over years, becomes power. Think carefully about the 7 lessons you have heard. Singular desire teaches focus. Rhythm teaches consistency. Time discipline teaches value. Alliance teaches multiplication. Inner speech teaches self-command. Continual becoming teaches expansion. Final commitment teaches endurance. These are not merely financial lessons. They are laws of transformation. A man who applies them does not only increase his income, he changes the structure of his character. That is why money follows certain men repeatedly. Even if they lose everything temporarily, they often rebuild. Why? Because the principles remain inside them. Wealth first exists mentally before it appears physically. Remove the money from a disciplined mind, and that mind eventually creates money again. But give wealth to an undisciplined mind, and eventually disorder consumes it. This is why so many people chase methods while ignoring identity. They want quick rewards without inner change. But every lasting result requires a man capable of sustaining it. The winners understood this. They treated self-mastery as the foundation of prosperity. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: winners think long-term. The average man sacrifices the future for temporary comfort. The winner sacrifices temporary comfort to strengthen the future. That single difference compounds over years into completely different lives. One man spends his evenings distracted. Another spends them building skill. One man wastes hours complaining. Another uses those same hours learning, refining, planning, and growing. One man changes direction constantly. Another remains loyal to one definite purpose long enough for momentum to appear. At first, the difference seems small. Years later, the difference becomes enormous. This is the hidden law of compounding. Small, disciplined actions repeated consistently create results that appear extraordinary over time. Most people quit before the compounding begins. Winners stay long enough to experience it. That is why persistence matters so deeply. The world often rewards the man who remains after everyone else has stopped. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually. Opportunities begin recognizing him. Trust begins following him. Skill begins sharpening him. Confidence begins stabilizing him. And eventually, what once felt difficult becomes natural. The winner is not always the smartest man in the room. Often, he is simply the man who continued, the man who stayed disciplined after excitement disappeared, the man who remained focused while others became distracted, the man who guarded his mind while others surrendered theirs to fear, comfort, and uncertainty. That is why these lessons matter, because they are not reserved for a special class of people. They are available to anyone willing to live deliberately. Any man can develop stronger habits. Any man can discipline his time. Any man can sharpen his inner speech. Any man can become more committed, more focused, more organized, and more persistent. The question is not whether the principles work. The question is whether the individual will apply them long enough for results to appear. Most men want success. Few organize themselves for it. Most admire winners. Few study the principles that created them. But the moment a man stops drifting and begins living by law instead of emotion, everything begins changing. His thinking changes. His habits change. His standards change. His opportunities change. And eventually, his entire life changes. That is the true secret hidden behind the study of winners. Success is not random. Wealth is not accidental. And the future does not belong to the man who merely wishes for more. It belongs to the man who disciplines himself enough to become more